3. We haven't done Do It Together notes in a while, but we're going to start them today and we'll finish them tomorrow. You still should do the problems in the worksheet that we covered today, and then we'll finish everything in class tomorrow. All right, tax tables, worksheets, and schedules. Ton of vocab to start with. A lot of this you probably have seen in the first 2 sections and all the resources you look through if you did your do-it-yourself notes. We're going to start with just the basic definition of a tax. It's something you pay to the government to cover services. It's very broad because it could be federal government, state government, or local government. And the services, it just depends on which government entity or which kind of entity you're paying the tax to. If it's federal government, they provide certain services. If it's state, they provide certain services. If it's local, they provide certain services. And by services, we mean public services, like building roads, bridges, or maintaining them, schools, police departments, fire departments, hospitals, emergency management, if there's a big natural disaster or any sort of, even a man-made catastrophe, any sort of aid like that. There's I did not give you an inclusive list, but that is a very broad term for a lot of things. Property taxes are collected based on the value of your home. I think property taxes don't have to be on just your home, but it is based on the value of property. I would think that would be not just home implies the house you're living in, but you would also own real estate. And so I would think that you would pay property taxes on that as well, even though it's not technically your home. It would be a property that you own, though. Sales tax are collected based on the value of items you purchase. That is the most commonly paid tax. People that don't own homes or don't make enough income to qualify or to have to pay taxes even, still wind up paying sales tax. And that is by design, because I think the way they set things up, they didn't want just people with property to have to pay all the taxes, right? People that don't own a home or don't make enough money to pay taxes still use the roads, still send their kids to public schools, still might use an emergency service of some sort. So it seems fair that, Jay, will you put your phone away in your backpack, not on your desk? We're not listening to music right now either, guys. If you have your headphones, AirPods, earbuds in right now, it's good to take them out. Anywho, everybody pays sales tax. There is a group of items that you purchase that you don't have to pay sales tax on. Do you guys know what that is? Did you know there are some things that you don't have to pay sales tax on? Sam said yes. What do you think you don't have to pay tax on, Sam?
Hurricane supplies.
So during certain periods of time, there are certain products that you don't have to pay taxes on. That's true. But this group of products, you never have to pay taxes on. Sales tax on. Groceries. Now, not all groceries, but most groceries. So milk, bread, eggs, protein, produce, what they deem as healthy, mostly, you don't have to pay taxes on. But then there are food things that you think, well, that's not very healthy food, and you don't have to pay taxes, like donuts. You don't have to pay taxes when you get a Krispy Kreme, but I would think it's arguable that Krispy Kreme is not very healthy. So it is not arguable that they're not delicious, because they are perfect. But you don't have to pay taxes on those. But in general, if you go to the grocery store and you're buying food or supplies to make a meal, you don't have to pay taxes. So you'll go through your receipt the next time you come out of the grocery store. If you're buying soda, you'll pay tax. If you're buying candy, you'll pay tax. There are some things that you will have to pay taxes on in the grocery store. If you buy any sort of health and beauty products or any other kind of products, but most of the food in the grocery store is tax-free. You don't have to pay taxes on it. They don't collect sales tax on that. Income taxes. They're collected based on the amount of taxable income you earn. And the Internal Revenue Service, I'm sure you guys have all heard of that, is a federal agency that collects all federal taxes. So the IRS is basically the collection agency for the taxes, but they don't get to decide where the money is spent, right? Our government decides where the money is spent. The people we elect. Y'all caught up with me? Rashad, you awake? Rashad? Oh, I can't see. I just see you kind of laid down. Okay. Filing status. So the amount of tax with the state depends on several things. One of them is your filing status. So the definition of filing status is a description of your marital and family status that impacts how much you pay in taxes. So you can see these are the types of filing statuses here. Single means you're unmarried. Married filing jointly. Yes. Yes. Married filing jointly, or a qualifying widower or widow. Widow's the woman and the widower is the man. Do you guys know that? That means your spouse has died. So if you're a widow, you're a female whose husband has died. Yes. If you're a widower,
would you still be a widow if you remarried after your husband died? Or would you still
yes, you would still be a widow.
But you'd be married.
You'd be a married widow.
That's weird.
Because you're the widow of the person that died, so I think you would always do it. I'm kind of just pulling that out of the air, and that's my educated guess as an old person, so I'm not a widow, thank God. But I think you're the widow of a certain person, right? So whether you remarry after you're widowed to that person or by that person, then yeah, I think you'd still be a widow.
I'm a widow.
I don't know, it'd be interesting. You can Google it for me. Let me know if I'm wrong tomorrow.
I'm a widow.
Okay. Married, filing jointly, or qualifying widow. You are married, or you were married before your spouse died. And these are people who file together on their taxes. Jointly means together. Married filing separately means you are married, but you're not filing. So if you are married filing jointly, you put all of your income on the same tax return. You only file one tax return. If you're married filing separately, each of you file separate returns. You would get a separate refund or a separate bill if you haven't paid enough for the year. It's very similar to filing with a single status, but I think if you're married, at least up to a certain point, you get a little bit of a tax break just for being married, even though you're not filing jointly. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know why they would do that, but back in the day, I think they were looking for ways to encourage people to be married. Head of household, special filing status for certain unmarried taxpayers who support other people in addition to himself. So if you are not married, so if you're married, you cannot be a head of household. If you are not married and you are supporting, I believe, your own children, dependent children, but it could also be adult people. If you have someone living with you that if you pay over 50% of their financial support, and I pulled 50% kind of out of the air right now too, but there's a percentage for you to qualify. So it could be an adult, it could be an elderly parent living with you and you pay for all of their support, or it could be a handicapped person or a disabled person if you pay for their support. Those are kind of examples of that. Any questions so far? Okay, y'all caught up with me? Schedules, tables, and worksheets. Tax schedules, tables, and worksheets. The one you're actually going to use when you file your taxes is this little one here, tax tables. And they show all the taxes for all the people, and they're huge. But the beauty is you don't have to do any work to find your tax amount. We're learning how to find your tax amount based on these schedules and worksheets. Well, I should rephrase that probably. If you have some sort of special income, you may have to use another worksheet to help you find your tax, but you would start probably with the tax table. When I do my taxes, I just use a tax table. if I come up with a taxable income of $38,950, let's say, and that's not mine, I have no idea what mine is right now, but let's say that that's what my taxable income wants to be. I look in the tax tables, and then I look for where a range that this falls into. So 38,925 to 39,000, let's say. And they are pretty small increments. That's why it says there are a lot of them, because it's broken down into very small ranges. So my income falls in here, and the next column will say $6,452, and then I know that's my tax amount. This worksheet is required 10% of the first group, and 12% of the second group, and then another percent of the third chunk of our money, right? But really, if you're filing the most basic taxes, which most of you will do at least for the first couple of years that you're filing them, and I will probably always do for all my life, so I don't have a lot of sources of income, it's pretty easy to find your tax that you owe in the table. Well, we are going to be working with tax schedules, and the tax schedules show a piecewise calculation. We learned how to work with piecewise functions earlier in the year. The tax schedules show a piecewise calculation, and that just means you have a different function or a different equation for different input values. So if your income is from between $0 and $11,000, that's your input, your income, right? If it's between 11,000 and I forget the other cap on it, 44,370, 725 or something like that, then that group of money use a different function, right? So you use different functions for the same problem based on the input range of values. And finally, the worksheets are slightly more complicated versions of tax schedules, and they're usually for rich people. I would agree with that probably, but there are also worksheets for not rich people, and I only know because I've used worksheets to help me figure out tax credits, tax deductions for various reasons. For instance, my kids were in college. They were eligible, or I was eligible for a tax credit. Do you guys know the difference between a tax credit and a tax deduction?
Isn't when they deduct from taxes?
So credit is when you just get to subtract from your tax bill. So if you would owe $6,452 and you have a $1,000 tax credit, now you only owe $5,452. If you have a $1,000 tax deduction, you take $1,000 off of your taxable income. So it will affect your taxes. It'll lower your taxes, but not like a tax credit. Tax credit actually comes straight off your tax bill. So that is a more desirable one. And we are going to have to be able to write inequalities that represent range of values of income or taxable income. So we're going to review inequalities a little bit. And then inequality less than, greater than, what's this one? Less than or equal to, very good. And this one is greater than equal to. Remember, the greater than points to the big numbers, the less than points to the numbers that are less, right? Or less than less or 5. I encourage kids to think about it. So if someone told you, so we're talking about constraints as kind of like conditions or parameters, descriptors that certain values have to meet. So this says if someone told you I'm thinking of a number that is greater than 19 and less than or equal to 51, what are the constraints on the number they're thinking of? So if we're thinking of a number, it's an unknown. We can think of that as an X anytime you see a number. What are the constraints? They're actually written out here, but we're just going to underline for the sake of not having to write everything. So the constraint would be the number X is greater than 19, so you're underlining here, and less than or equal to 51. That is the constraint here. That means whatever number it is has to be greater than 19, not equal to 19, but it also has to be less than or equal to 51. So it could be 51, it could be 50, it could be 50.5, but it can't be 50.1, right? So it has to meet those conditions. Could you represent that in an inequality notation? Well, you did when you were when you took algebra and geometry, so the answer to that is yes. So we're going to start and write a basic compound inequality, and then we're going to convert it to the form that your inequality should be in from here. And this is a form that you use in algebra as well. So if we're going to call our number x, we know that it's greater than 19. We can say x is greater than 19. Makes sense? And, so there's an and here. Remember your and compound inequalities from geometry and algebra. And x is less than or equal to 51. So this is a compound inequality. One answer really, but it has two inequalities in it. But we do not want to write it like this. I always call them the combined version, the sandwich version. We're going to take that and out. So the variable is the same variable. Let's start with 19. Always put the smallest number on the left. Always put the largest number on the right. Always put your variable, and the variable would have to be the same, in the middle. And this is going to be less than. Why is it less than here when there's a greater than between x and 19 there? Can anybody do like 19 first? Yeah, so that order matters, right? If we read this, we say that x is greater than 19. If we read this, we read it 19 is less than x. Those really say the same thing, right? So if one number is less than another number, then the other number is also greater than the first one, right? So anyway, they mean the same thing, but when we put them, when we rewrite it as this, in this notation, we want it all in one expression. So for our purposes, you're always going to have small number, large number, variable in the middle, always going to be less than or equal to, at least in the problems we're working on today and these tax schedules, right? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about values that are greater than one number, but less than or equal to another. So this would be the inequality notation we're talking about. Any questions? Y'all caught up with me?
No. We should write something after yes.
Yes, good. This one, that's it. I don't know why it won't come. Alright, here we go. This is the tax schedule. You don't have these on your printed copy. They are in a digital copy, so tomorrow you'll use them when you... Actually, you know what? It took me 3 periods to figure it out, but the back of your homework today has the same tax schedule. Can I flip that over? So you can follow along. This is the tax schedule, not table, schedule that you would use if you were on these problems anyway. If you're filing as a single taxpayer, you can see the ranges, the tax amount, and we're going to talk about what this means. This is if you're married filing jointly or you're a widow or a widower. This is if you're married, you're filing separately. And this is if you're head of household. Okay? So we're going to refer back to these depending on what they're asking us to find. Number one is given a taxable income amount, so the tax, so I, or future information, they're using I almost always to indicate your taxable income. For a single taxpayer, so now I know when we go back, we're looking for the single taxpayer schedule, express the tax table line that would be used as a compound inequality. So we're going to look at the single taxpayer schedule, and you can look at that on yours, 54,000. All right, so you have the tax schedule. You can look at the one for filing as a single taxpayer. which range of values does this taxable income fall into? The third. So is it between 32,550 and 78,850? Yes, it is. And so that is the range of values. Because we're going to write that in inequality notation. And I think some of these give you the option to do an internal notation, but we're not doing an internal notation unless I talk to you about it later. We're going to do it in the inequality notation. So this is the range. Everybody with me? We're going to have the right range. So to write our inequality, we use this minimum and maximum in the range. So the smallest number goes on the left. The largest number goes on the right. Our variable is a taxable income. And we're always going to do less than and less than or equal to. And that is based on these captions. It's over the minimum, but not equal to. And it's up to, but not over the maximum. So that is where we get the less than. This is where we get the less than or equal to. Okay, so this part of these inequalities will always be the same. Got it? Minimum in the range, the maximum in the range, and our taxable income variable with these inequalities. So far, so good? So that's your answer for that problem. Was that 1A? So that's 1A. What does it say for 1B? Anybody read it to me? Jonathan? I equals 148,560. Okay, so $148,560,000. So if we are a single taxpayer and this is our income, how would we write the range of incomes that this falls in between? So we can look here at the maximum and then find your max. So it's greater than this, but less than this. So it falls into this fourth range, right? So what are we going to do to write our inequality? What's our first number going to be in our inequality? Yes, 78,850. And what's our number on the right going to be? Yep, 550. And what's going to go in the middle here? Always the same, right? Less than I and less than or equal to. So this says that I, or the taxable income, is greater than 78,850 and less than or equal to $164,550. Any questions? All right. Then go to number 2. So we're not going to do C and D right now. I'm going to let you guys do those. You can do them tonight at home, or you can do it tomorrow when you get to class. Not right now. Given the filing status and the tax. So this is not our I, right? So this is the tax, not the income. They want us to identify the taxable income interval that was used to determine the tax, and we're going to write it as an inequality notation. All right? So single, 8713, and tax. So you're looking at your single. I'll write this one before I get it. So if the tax that this person pays is $8,713, we should be able to figure out what range their income is in. So look at the table and see what do you think. $8,713. These are income numbers. These are not what we're looking for. This is tax, so we're looking at this column. Okay? This means they don't pay any tax in this group, this range. This range, their taxes start at $802.50, looks like it might be this range. Now we're gonna go look at this next one here. This is 4481.25 plus some amount. The next range of value starts at $16,000 tax. Well, we're not paying that, right? So that can't be it. So this would be the range of income. So if you pay $8,713 in tax, then your range has to fall in between, your income, taxable income has to fall in this range. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Isabel? So we write that range as an inequality. The smallest one is the minimum on the left, the biggest one is the maximum, and that range on the right. What goes in the middle? Yep, and this whole thing has to get I in the very middle, and this is going to be a what? Less than. Nope, less than, right? Always going to be less than here and less than or equal to here. If you read this, you'll wind up reading that backwards, and you'll read it as a greater than, but it's a less than symbol. Any questions on that one? What's the next one say? Can you read me, actually, I need to pick because I may not have done the same. Oh, yeah. B, head of household. So if you're found as the head of a household, and this is your tax, we want to find out what is the range of taxable income that your income fell in based on these schedules. So we're going to go to head of household here. Sorry. Can't clear my throat. These allergies. Can you tell me what the tax was? So we want our taxable income, right? So we can also start, you could start with this. Now we need our minimum and our maximum. However makes most sense to you. So looking at our range of taxes here, because we know the tax, we want to give the line the range of possible taxable income as an inequality. So we're paying $9,000. So this is a minimum of $1,100 up to the 6227. So we're not going to use that first group or second group. Not this one, right? This is a tax of 6227.50 up to 64,215. So that's too big. So we can see that our tax interval here, or our range of values, is here. The smallest number on the left and the largest number on the right. Does that make sense, Brianna? Yes. See what? You can't see it? Remember, you have this tax table on your homework if you flip it over. Okay. So we're going to write 45,500. That is the minimum for that range of value income, and a maximum of 117,450. Any questions? Oh, we're behind. All right, we're going to speed up a little bit. For the widowers, we're going to do the same thing, but we're looking at the wherever we see the word widow or widower. Right here, it doesn't start with widow or widower, but it's always in there. Was that $11,706? Yep. Nope. So this is the tax, so not the income. So we're looking here, that tax falls in between this one, this range and this range. It falls in between $8,000 and $25,000. We have to go with this range, right? Because we don't pay that much tax. So not that one, not this one. Our minimum in that range is $65,100. Our maximum in that range is 131, 450. We're talking about our range of values for the income, taxable income. That is not one over there. There we go. Is that 3? Wait, is that number 3? No. 13. Okay. Let's see number 3. So let's look here. This is something, it's a tax amount from your schedule plus the percent of your income over the minimum amount. So this is your hint you need. Income minus the minimum. That's what's going to go in your parentheses, and I'm going to explain that to you. So your income minus your minimum. That's what you're multiplying the percent by. Okay. So for number 3, since the Ron is single and earns $51,482 in taxable income, how much does he owe in taxes? So we're going to give it to the single table. Y'all have the single table on the back of your homework, by the way, remember? And this is his range, right? 51 something. So it's in between the 32,550 and 78,850. So we're finding his income here because we need this. So that's ring number 3. So that is the information we need. Look for where his income falls, which range of values his income falls into, and then we look at the tax and how you figure the tax. So I have that here, I think. So for this problem, this is the starting amount of tax plus 25% of his income. This is I, right? So it's I minus the minimum in that range where his income fell. You can just do this straight across in your calculator, make sure you use the parentheses, and make sure you hit the equals button here at the end. So they give you the minimum amount of tax, and then you have to add a percent based on how much more you make over the minimum of that range of income. So in this case, you would have $9,214.25.
So wait, with this one, you don't have to do what we were doing with the other one?
Not for the schedule. You good?
Wait, I didn't see that.
9214.25. Oh, this last one, and then I'll let you pack up. It would be quick. 6490, 900 in taxable income. This is the head of household. So you guys look at your schedule. What is the minimum tax for his taxable income? You're going to look for the range of values. 64, 25%, right? Yes, so it's going to be here. 45,500 is in between these two, right? So this is his beginning tax, 62,2750, and I have this on the screen over here. Right, plus 25% of the difference in his income and the minimum for that range of taxable income. So plus 0.25 times 64,900, his taxable income, minus the minimum in that range of taxable income where his income fell. Enter that from left to right, just like that on the calculator, and you will get the correct answer. You don't have to show me what this equals. You don't have to show me what that times 25% is. You have to show me this and the answer. $11,077.50. And we will finish don't like it, then go ahead and do it, unless you have to do tomorrow.